Right. Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the ReptiChat podcast. Probably the best podcast in the UK when it comes to reptiles, amphibians, and exotic pets, just as a whole. Probably, but who am I to judge? So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started with today. Let's see who's in the chat. There's lots of chat people going on. Hey, Serenity. Hey, reptilian mentality. I can't even speak. It's going to be a good episode. Hey, George. Fiona, early gang as always. Dan, nice to see you, early gang. Paul is here. Thank you very much for coming along. Riddler is in the chat as well as in the green room. Catty's Reptiles. Hello, hello, hello. Awesome. That is everybody in the chat. So thank you all for coming along. Right. First up, Patreon. I'm going to try and do this properly because last time I pushed all the wrong buttons. Patreon. Patreon members, you guys and girls are on screen now. As always, a huge thank you for your continued support. It really means a huge amount to me. So much so that earlier I realised that if you are listening via like one of the major audio streaming services and not watching, you never actually see the names of the Patreons on screen. So if anybody has any ways that I can include maybe one or two names each episode, like a little shout out or something, let me know. I did think that I could just read all the names out at the beginning of each episode, but if I'm looking into the future and being hopeful, eventually there might be a really big list and that could take far too long. So yeah, if you have any ideas on how I can do that for the audio only listeners, let us know. If you are on Patreon but you are curious about Patreon, here's a quick few things and then I will move on and I probably won't mention it again. So it starts as it starts at as little as £1 a month. There's a 7-day free trial too. Patreon perks. All the perks, regardless of the tier, are exactly the same. The only difference is there are some Patreon exclusive stickers, and if you are on one of the lower price tiers, it takes takes a little while longer for you to get the stickers, but everyone will get the stickers, and there's no like paywall, I suppose. But yeah, I'm trying to make it as inclusive as possible, but I need to cover the cost of the stickers, basically. That's all it is. But yeah, you get Discord, you get early access to videos and stuff. You get to know who is coming on before anybody else. It's all very, very exciting. A quick note for my patrons that are listening as well. The stickers are ready to be ordered. I'm just waiting for Patreon to sort my money out because for some reason I'm really struggling to get the money from Patreon into my bank account. Anyway, that's enough of that. Link for Patreon is in the show notes below if you are interested. Excuse me. So, let's introduce today's guest. I'm sure you've seen this chap knocking about in every corner of the internet, from social media sensation collaborating with Arcadia recently over on Instagram to weekly YouTube content that just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. This is the third time he's been on the podcast, but this is round 2 as an episode because we don't count the train wreck of what I called Christmas. So please, without any further ado, let's welcome Andrew, aka Mr. Riddler Reptiles. Hello, mate. How are you?
I am very well, thank you, Ben. How are you?
I am very well. It's all been a bit of a rush today. I've had a mental week and I've left everything to the last minute, but my week's probably not been as mental as your week. So first off,
yeah, been a little bit hectic.
Yeah, congratulations on the new addition to the household.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
How is everyone doing at home? We all right?
We're tired.
Yeah.
We're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, so little girl is 3 days old. Yeah, mum and baby were home just after one night in hospital. Obviously, precautionary, just 24 hours just to make sure. But both absolutely fine. My little boy is fine. He absolutely adores his new little sister.
Nice.
Literally calls for her to say good night every night, which is really sweet. But yes, it is rather hectic. Hence the reason why I I was on time, but only
You were
by
on time.
3 minutes.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. Even if you were 5 seconds before, you were still on time. It's all that matters.
Cutting it. But yeah, man, we're all good. We're all good. Like I say, we're tired, but it's fine. It is what it is. We've been through it once before. Let's see how we get on with this one. Yeah, basically. So, I mean, I'm still trying to get some builds done. So last night, the missus and my little boy went to bed at probably about 6:30, 7, something like that. And then my missus went to bed shortly after with obviously the newborn. And I was like, right, I could go and get some rest as well. Or I can go and start another build.
Exciting
and lo and
stuff.
behold, I went and started another build. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. I just sort of put the box together as such. So I was only down here just probably about half an hour, 45 minutes, just getting some stuff done. But it was worth it because I'm trying to get it in whenever I can. Because obviously, during the day,
definitely. If people are sleeping, that's the ideal time, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, all good, man. All good. Keeping busy, but yeah, adjusting.
Yeah, I think there'll probably be a lot of adjusting over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. So, mate, as you know, I like to start each episode with the get to know section. You did do this last time, but that was a whole. In fact, it was ages ago because I looked back today. So the last time you were on was episode 8, and we're on episode 42.
Oh wow! Okay, nice.
So yeah, new questions. So if you're happy, we will get stuck into the questions.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Perfect. Snakes or lizards?
Paul's in the chat, isn't he?
Yeah, he is in the chat. Yeah.
Oh.
He'll probably be saying I've nicked his questions, to be fair.
Probably. No, it's just one of them because I'm always there going, whenever that's asked, I'm like, oh, I don't know because I do really like the snakes. And he basically swears at me every time. And he's just like, no, it's lizards every time. I do love the snakes, but the lizards are more exciting. Let's go lizards.
I have to agree. Since keeping more lizards, snakes are surprisingly boring.
Yeah.
Frogs or salamanders?
Ooh. Frogs.
Nice. Centipedes or millipedes?
Millipedes all day. Shongololo.
Yeah. Centipedes are scary as well.
Yeah.
Spiders or scorpions?
Ooh. I'm going to go with spiders only because I've got a little jumping spider and I've never owned a scorpion.
Yeah, and I absolutely love a jumping spider. My local shop has got, I think they've got like 10 or 11 in at the moment, and I've kept them in the past. I've got an empty enclosure literally there as well. I'm like, I could do it, but I haven't yet, but it's going to happen at some point. I love them.
I got in trouble for getting that jumping spider. I was under the impression that we had sort of agreed to me getting one in the future at some point. And so I came home from IHS with one, and she went, "Why have you got a spider?" I said, "I thought you said it was all right." So it was one of those forgiveness over permission sort of things.
Sometimes that's the only way you can go, mate. Birds or butterflies?
Birds.
Grasslands or woodlands?
Oh, woodlands.
Nice. Beach or mountains?
Beach all day, every day. Not even a second thought.
Oh, I'm a mountain man. I think you're the first, maybe the first person that said beach. Most people say mountains.
Well, because for me, mountains, I get this image of hiking and tired and hurting.
I'm just getting a lot of tired at the moment.
Yeah. Whereas the beach, it's just me asleep with headphones in or earphones in and just waves. And one day.
Nice. Last two, hot climate or cold climate?
Hot all day, every day.
Yeah, nice. And last but not least, the most important question of the entire podcast: what is your favourite biscuit?
Do you know what? It's probably a standard answer, but it's got to be the chocolate digestive.
Yeah, to be fair, they are like the Swiss Army knife of biscuit. They just work.
Because I was taught a little trick by my old man as well. Because you get double the biscuit and none of the mess. So you get 2 digestives, flip them so that the chocolate's facing each other, so that you're just holding biscuit when you dip in it.
Oh,
and it's
clever.
Double thickness, and you get no chocolate on the fingers. I remember seeing that, and I was like, my dad's the smartest man in the world. He can't do electrics or anything, but we won't go into that. But yeah,
but he knows how to dunk a
he
biscuit.
knows how to dunk a biscuit. Yeah.
That's brilliant. A quick side note, actually, massive bonus points to any listener if they want to put together a leaderboard of the best biscuits. And if you do that, I will find an extra special ReptiChat exclusive merch that doesn't exist, and it will be just for you. Because I keep meaning to do it, and I just haven't got the time. So if someone's listening and wants to do it, I will be eternally grateful. Because I say every week, I ask the question, and I'm like, oh, that's a good shout. And by the end of the episode, I'm talking about reptiles. I can't remember about biscuits. I want to know.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we've got a few topics I want to cover today. The topic in the title is going to be the last one. So unfortunately, you guys have all got to hang around until the end. So we'll get stuck in, mate. The first question that I have for you, which is from my wife, actually. I'm not nicking Paul's thing where Fiona asked to. I don't normally mention Vicky at all, but she asked me to ask you, so I said I would. She wants to know where the name Riddler Reptiles comes from, and are you a big fan of Batman?
See, the funny thing is, right? I think this came up in one of my Q&As as well. I think, because I think Jay asked it. The funny thing about that, so yes, firstly, I am a big fan of Batman. I do like it, right? It's really, it's class. Yeah. But where did Riddler Reptiles come from? I'm not even that obsessed with the Riddler, right? So essentially, when I was trying to come up with the name, because as we all know, initially it was Andrew's balls, which is so innovative.
It's how it works.
So it's genius. You know what I mean?
Clever.
I don't think anyone thought of that before.
One of a kind.
And I was there and I was thinking, something reptiles. I was thinking that or maybe something exotic.
It's generally the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was looking and I was like, ridiculous reptiles. Nah, not really. I don't know. Let's throw him under the bus here. Ravishing reptiles. Nah, it's already been taken. Shit name. And I was looking at things like that, and I was trying to think of something maybe a little bit more creative and what I can do with it. And it just, I don't even know how it came up, but I started thinking maybe it popped up in thesaurus.com, and I saw it, and I was like, Riddler Reptiles. And then I started thinking about the logo, which, as we've seen, I've now changed, but it's still got that in there.
It does, yeah.
But as you can see with the OG one,
a bit of that, bit of Swiper.
So, see, a lot of people said, what's it? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Actually, that was the first thing that came to my mind was Teenage
as opposed to a Riddler mask, and obviously Swiper's come up. The OG logo, as you can see here, the old question mark. You can see, obviously, it's a green question mark, snake and gecko and all of that. Right? So, but genuinely, I've always been worried about someone asking this question because the answer to that is I'm not sure, and I like Batman, but I've never really been that obsessed with the Riddler. So
it came up and it stuck.
And it stuck. This is what I mean. I'm too far gone now to change it because people literally now in the hobby, not obviously my wife doesn't call me Riddler, but I'm referred to in the hobby as Riddler. She calls me much worse than Riddler. Yeah. So it's too far gone now, and I think it sort of suits it. But
it is funny actually. I was because I've got not a script, but lots of notes in there, and I couldn't decide if I was going to call you Andrew today or Riddler. So at points, we're going to swap between the two.
It's fine. Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Right. So could you give us a quick rundown of who Riddler Reptiles is? Don't give us a massive history lesson because obviously in your last episode we did do that. But just a quick history lesson and maybe a rundown of what you're keeping, just so people that don't know who you are have a rough idea.
I've just seen a funny one in the comments. Both Fee and Paul at the same time, literally on the same minute. Riddler is the name on the wedding invite. That's incredible. That literally on the same minute.
Mr. and Mrs. Riddler, or is it just just Riddler?
and little Junior Riddler. Actually, no, the kids probably aren't invited.
I agree. Andrew is too weird. But then, do we call you Andy? And that feels really weird.
Yeah. Some people do. Again, there's a lot of times that people are like, oh, do we call as in outside of the hobby? Is it Andrew? Is it Andy? And I'm just like, whatever. I'm really not bothered because, like I say, I'm called worse on a daily basis anyway. So I think of it as a question. It's giving growth. I'll take that. No kids. Oh.
We wrote
I
Andrew and
I
then threw
honestly
up.
don't think Paul has ever called me Andrew, ever.
No.
In person, voice notes, whatever. I think it's always Riddler. Yeah, calls me Dick Weasel when I'm
Kayla calls
being
me Dick Weasel when I'm being
That's a good
annoying.
one. I
I
like
like
that.
that, to be fair. I
Yeah.
am called worse when I'm being annoying.
Yeah,
So
so
give
back
us a
to the
history
question.
lesson, mate, please.
Yeah. All right. So as I've already sort of alluded to, it started off as Andrew's balls. I was going to keep royal pythons in boxes, and I was going to become a millionaire by selling baby snakes. And that
How'd that go?
very quickly disappeared.
Yeah.
Right. So the mindset at the minute, similar to what George has just said, is a growth mindset. So there's snakes that are being moved on, and the ones that I'm keeping are being upgraded into new enclosures. Because we want what's best for our animals, bigger space, enriching lives, overhead heat, UVB for everyone, LEDs for everyone. And that's what the current mindset is. I'm now down to 6 royal pythons. I think at my height, I think I got to, it was either 14 or 16. No, actually, tell a lie, with babies, because I had one clutch. I think it was like 21, 22. So yeah, so now I'm down to 6, and it might go down a little bit more. But don't tell the wife that, because she's still not aware. My favourite snake is my milk snake.
Is she against you getting rid of the royals then?
Some of them, she is fully like, they're not going. That's
Okay.
literally, they're not touching. So there's 2 especially. So essentially, the ones that I want to end up with for good are the 2 that she said are out of bounds not to ever be touched because she loves them.
Yeah.
The first ever royal that I got, that she bought me for my birthday, and the royal that I bought for her because she saw it at Morph Market and thought it was beautiful. So yeah, the other 2 I think are fair game, but we'll see. But yeah, my milk snake is my favorite snake that I've got because she's out right now. She's out most of the time. She's feisty, she's beautiful, and she's just really cool to have. I also keep some smaller species like a little leopard gecko, cresty. I do have 2 tokays, which I'm hoping to pair. I don't know why I forgot the word for pair soon. Obviously, my pride and joy, who's on the new logo, is not Swiper, but Ragnar, the Roughneck Monitor. But yeah, it's Riddler Reptiles has been going. There she is. Look at her in her Riddler mask, not her Swiper mask or Teenage Mutant Ragnar.
There is a swiper there too, though. You can see the resemblance.
But yeah, Reptile Room 2.0 is on the way, which is just going to be bigger, better enclosures for everyone, upgrades. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. I'm going naturalistic, bioactive in as good a sense of the word as you can get, because I know that's a touchy subject as well.
Yeah, I think naturalistic is a better way to describe
It's
them at the
probably a
moment.
better way to put it. Yeah.
People say bioactive, and people get quite uppity quite quickly.
People get triggered, don't they? They go,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's not bioactive," because you go, "Oh,
You've put some wood lice in. It's not bioactive."
It's just like, it's almost like just a way of just letting you know what I'm doing. But yeah, we'll go naturalistic. But yeah, Riddler Reptile's been going for 2-3 years now. Probably about 2 years now. But yeah, man, it's been fun because the progress, even I've seen it. Do you know what I mean? It's so yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that was quite a nice little synopsis there. If you want to know more about the history of Riddler, pop back, like I said at the beginning, to all the way back to episode 8, which was a long time ago now, and I think we go quite more in depth into your sort of the start of your reptile keeping career, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, we've got a few different topics I want to touch on.
Yeah.
And as we go, I'm going to dip in and out of the comments as well as normal. The first thing I wanted to touch on is you have recently been made a part of the team Berate, Don't Hate. Is that right?
Educate, don't berate.
Yeah, see, I can't remember. Educate, don't berate. Right. So what is it and what is your role?
Well, to be fair, there's not roles as such. So it's just a team of reptile keepers, amphibian keepers, obviously inverts, basically the sort of people that want better and want to help others do better as well. So we see online far too often a someone who's either a beginner or maybe someone that's sort of midway through their journey, or maybe is looking for a change in direction, ask for advice or ask for help, and they just get berated, basically. And it ends up, that person ends up not changing because their guard goes up straight away. And then you've got other people that were going to ask questions that don't because they're scared of receiving the same treatment. That's not the environment we want. People cannot and will not change if they are met with hostility, anger, a judgment. It's basically a judgment-free zone where you can go to any one of us, ask for advice, rate your setups. What can I do better? Am I doing this right? And if we don't know the answer, so say someone asks me and I don't know the answer, I will find someone who does. And regardless of, you can have a setup that's, I don't know, you could have a leopard gecko in a 2-foot enclosure that's got a red bulb in it and reptile carpet. You can come to any one of us and ask about your setup, and you will not be met with hate. You will be told, thank you for asking for advice. Here's what you can do better. Here's how to do this. This is your best bet for that. You can find good advice here and it's basically that sort of thing. So we just need to make sure that those who are just starting the hobby or feel like they can do better have basically a safe space to go. I know the word safe space, or the phrase safe space is recently used as like do you need a safe space? But it's true. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
you want people to be able to feel confident about asking questions that they
exactly, because like I say, all too often, there's people just getting attacked online, and we would rather educate than berate. So the idea came from Nay Pip and Friends, she's basically leading the idea and the movement, I guess, as well. But she didn't even think about it like that. It was just a case of, I think she just said it to someone in passing comment one day, and it stuck. If I remember the story correctly, it just because she said it on my podcast the other day, and basically it stuck. She ran with it, assembled an Avengers style team in the reptile hobby, and it's basically a place that people can go if they need advice, if they want some help, and they don't really fancy being judged for it.
I think that's a great idea. Because a lot of Facebook it's mainly Facebook, to be fair. People just get absolutely slated.
Oh, it's toxic.
So can anyone become part of the team if they want to, or if people wanted to get involved in Educate Don't Berate, what's the best way to go about trying to get involved?
There's an actual website dedicated to Educate Don't Berate, which has got all of our information on there. But like I say, the what's it called? Basically, the I don't want to say leader. Yeah, basically the leader of it is Nay. So I think the reason I got in is because they were asking, shall we look at, including new members and growing the team? Everyone agreed, and it wasn't the case of Nay went, I'm going to choose this person. I think it was almost like names were put forward, and who agrees on what. I can only assume. I've not been in there that long. I'm assuming you can put your name forward potentially. Obviously, there's no guarantees that you will. I don't want to speak for Nay, but there's no guarantees that anyone can join, because obviously we want to make sure that it doesn't lose its substance. Do you know what I mean? It needs to stay true and on the path, and it's easier. Obviously, I'm guessing the smaller it is, it's easier to sort of control.
It's easier to manage a small team.
Until you sort of start getting to the point where, all right, every single one of us here we know what we're doing, we're trustworthy. Let's start bringing in almost like the next generation.
So Fiona has said, do they have merch?
Not yet, but it has been discussed. We are looking at potential EDB merch. So it is not Europe only. I believe we have at least one in America and one in Canada as well.
But it's online anyway, so
it is all online.
Big
so
community.
The majority of us are in the UK, but that's not to say it's a UK exclusive. If we can reach every corner of the world and basically help reptile keepers all over the world, then that's the goal. No. So
Yeah,
just
Dan says so. It's just advice for novice keepers.
not as such. It doesn't have to be just for novice. Obviously, it starts getting a little bit more difficult the higher up in the expertise you go, because I for example, will not make any sort of statements to say that I'm an expert in the care of, well, most things. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting better, and I can put you along the right paths within reason, but it's predominantly for the novice keepers, the beginners, or just anyone that sort of needs a helping hand and a guide. Like, you can, I mean, even for example, it doesn't even have to be novice keepers. It can be someone who's been in the hobby for 10, 15 years that maybe feels like their care can be better, that maybe feels like they've missed a trick, that maybe feels like maybe I don't want to, keep in racks. Maybe I want to keep, but where do I start?
Yeah. Like, a
So the
lot of
novice
people.
keeper is the main goal, I guess, like
Yeah.
educating the new generation of reptile keepers.
Yeah. Again, Dan says like outdated keepers as well.
Yeah,
Because you
pretty
get a lot
much.
of people that obviously not like most people are on social media now, but
Yeah.
there are the odd few that aren't, or they don't use it very often, and say they're
Mhm.
keeping a single bearded dragon at home and they've kept that bearded dragon for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
There's not much that they would. It's not like they're sat at home going, "Oh, I wonder if the care's changed." Like, I don't Google
Mm.
if the care for my dog's ever changed. I've had them
Yeah.
for however many years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, if you can reach out and have like that sort of team, I think that's a great idea.
Hmm.
And Paul said, are there social media? Are there social pages? Where can people message? He's only heard about the movement, but he doesn't know how to ask.
So again, so the majority of it is on the website. If you go to especially Nay's TikTok account, which is Pip and Friends, in her link tree, and actual fact, I'm pretty sure because it's in my link tree as well, is the website itself. So anyone who's in the team, we should have in our link tree or a link to the website. As for messaging, your best bet is to message any one of the team, and then obviously we'll discuss it amongst ourselves.
Are you talking like message through like Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform we're on. What if we don't have TikTok? Yeah, literally Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any sort of social media platform that you
So the
find.
website's sort of like a directory of people they're pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah. So it comes up and it says sort of what people's. Again, we don't really like to use the term expertise because it almost, it screams out, I know everything about this. And it's not true. We've got our niches as such. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, for example, George, crested geckoils, crested geckos, hognose snakes.
Yeah.
Go to her. Me, I've put myself down as more of like, and I'm going to get grilled for this as well. Like, I'm more into the DIY side of things, the building and all of that. You've got, Jackie Silk Moth Mum, so obviously she's inverts, things like that, moths predominantly. So there's a little something for everyone.
Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, and like I say, if you can't, if you find that person and you say, oh, can I have help with this, if they don't know, you will be hopefully passed on to someone that does.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Cool. I will pop a link in the show notes below to the website as well. So if anybody is listening, wants to find out some more, go and click the link in the description. Just a quick side note, because there's comments going on everywhere. I'm trying to keep up to date.
Nice.
Serenity Dragons, Kayla has just found our first ever clutch of gargoyle eggs. So massive congratulations. That is awesome.
Nice. Yeah, to be fair, with Jacob's, my brother-in-law, he's got, I think, 5 or 6 baby gargoyles that we're trying to sell, but no one wants them. If anyone wants a baby gargoyle, hit me up.
There we go. So yeah, that's awesome. Well done. Congratulations for your first ever gargoyle clutch. Next up, you touched on it a little bit. How's he got right? I'm trying to keep up with the comments and it's throwing me off. So next up, I wanted to touch on social media because I like you're quite a large personality on social media, and you are putting a lot of work in, and it's showing. So I want to go to Instagram first because earlier I think it was this year, you made the decision to drop your account, which had quite a large following, and basically start from scratch again. And you even managed to get a nice little collab in there with Arcadia during their Omnigo promo week, Omnicold even. So why did you decide to make the change?
All right. So basically that account at its peak, the original one, it got to 16 point something thousand followers. Night night Ragnar. Yeah, so it got up quite high. But that all came during the TikTok boom. So I had a reel go viral. Like I was on 9,000 followers or something like that, or 8,000, something like that. Anyway, and then I had a reel go viral to the point where it got 18 million views.
Nice.
18 million, and the followers were going up, and it got all the way to 16 point something thousand. It was ridiculous. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, ride the wave, keep going, keep going, keep going. The views stopped, the follows stopped, the interaction didn't continue, and it's almost like Instagram saw that I had this following. Everyone's going to bed now. And the page basically just got nerfed. Now, it sounds like an excuse for not getting followers, but even Michael, as in Longfield Reptiles and Aquatics, I gave that account to him. I literally said to him, you can have it, give it a go, because it's not doing anything. And so you can see if I'm, exaggerating or not.
Yeah.
I think he tried it for about 2 weeks and he was like, there's nothing. You're getting nothing. Now, that was with everything scrapped. He started fresh, but with all the followers, and it got absolutely nothing. And I don't know what it was. I think it was just, I think I got followed by a load of bots. So then after that, when I started uploading pictures, reels, whatever it was, there was no interaction, nothing. So obviously Instagram sees this account and it's like, well, no one likes your stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it got absolutely nerfed. I tried giving it a break for a few months and coming back to it, see if it almost reset. I tried changing up hashtags. I tried changing up content. I tried doing more stories, less stories, and nothing worked. I thought, well, if this is the thing, it can't get any more broken.
Yeah.
So I might as well just cut my losses, start again. I just start, you know what I mean, and just hopefully get a more a more organic following. Do what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? And also, to be fair, worry less about like gaining followers and enjoy the followers that I've got. So, which is true, because like the amount of engagement I get with this page now, which is, it's not even at 600 followers yet, but every time I post, it's getting some comments. Every time I post, it's getting views, likes, and it's really nice, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think you have high numbers. Where you closed like the big account, the people that were following you and were like part of your community will have followed over, and you're just sort of like you say, getting rid of the rubbish and starting with that nice community to start with.
Yeah. So here we are. That was, I think it was mid to late December last year.
Yeah.
So it's not been long. It's only been probably about 5 months or so, but yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Like I say, I've found that I'm not even, because before I'd be checking the followers, I'd be checking the, the insights. How many followers have I lost? How many have I gained? How many have I can't remember the last time I checked it. Like every time I get a new 500, I get to 500.
Yeah.
I'll put a nice little sort of, thanks for 500 and everything like that. But I can't remember the last time I checked my insights, and it's a lot healthier and it is a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. When I was doing the Ben's Balls account, I was like chasing followers and, as you say, like checking the insights all the time. Now I'm like, I don't even know how many followers I've got on Instagram, to be honest. Like I post because I like posting on there. Like chat, I use the messaging probably more than anything else on there.
Yeah,
the only thing I do watch is like the reach, but not because I care what the reach is. I just like to see where it is at.
Yeah.
But I didn't even have to go into the analytics to see that. It just shows you on the front, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, no, fair enough. Yeah, that was just something I wanted to touch on. And YouTube as well. You've just hit your watch hours, so you're able to monetize now. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. So, well, it's the first tier of monetization.
Yeah.
So there's 2 tiers now. But you can
get super chats.
I can get super chats, memberships, and I can link my store to my page. So that's good.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the hours are building up quite nicely. So I don't want to speak too soon, just in case, because I'm starting to catch up some old videos. That's the danger.
Yeah.
But it's I'm plodding along. I hopefully shouldn't be too far off of getting ad revenue as well.
That's exciting.
But the thing is, as you've seen, like you said earlier on, I've been plugging away at YouTube. But
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff going over there. You've got build
yeah,
videos. You've got your True Tales of Alex from Ravishing Reptiles, obviously, and you've
yeah,
got Riddler's Rambles as well. So
yeah.
tell us, all the listeners, what is going on in the world of Riddler's YouTube? Because I've mentioned the topics, but what are they?
There's a lot basically. And the thing is, it's not even like I'm grinding and plugging away at it because I'm trying to, I really I need to hit these numbers. Like, don't get me wrong, I've made no, no, I've not tried to hide it. It's something I'm trying to turn into a career. I'll say that now. Do you know what I mean? If I can monetize something I enjoy, I'll do it. But the reason I do it so much is purely because I really, really enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's just good fun. Like this week alone, Tuesday I did a live Q&A with George, who's in chat. Shout out to George. Thursday, an episode of Riddler's Rambles went out. Shout out to Nate. And then I'm on here with, obviously this isn't on my channel, but I'm on YouTube again tonight. And I really, really enjoy it. Like, and I'm starting to get a hold of what I enjoy doing the most and how I enjoy doing it. Like I've got new editing software, I've got new, things like that. And the projects that are coming, like I used to just enjoy them myself. So I do something and it'd pretty much just be me. But now I can share it with like-minded people who also love what I'm doing. I think it's great. You know what I mean? You love to see it. So so there's all sorts going on. There's, like I say, Riddler's Rambles, which is the pre-recorded podcast that I do with different guests. And again, different topics, niches, things like that. Like I've had Jamie from the Reptile Shed, Norwich Reptile Shed. Obviously talking about DIY, things like that. Tory's Exotics was one of them. Obviously, Paul has been on. So there's that live Q&A. Again, that's a different one, but that's more people asking us questions in advance and also in the chat, which is always quite a fun one. And then you've got my DIY build videos, you've got upgrades, you've got new additions. Actually, to be fair, I've not really filmed many new additions because since having the YouTube, I don't think I've gained very many reptiles in a good way. Like, I haven't, like, like most of the time, but there's always some good ones, like unboxing videos.
I
haven't really had any of them because I got the majority of my reptiles before starting YouTube. So I've probably moved more on than I've gained, but again, in a positive way. But yeah, whatever I can do reptile wise, I'm filming it because I really enjoy it. Like I like the editing. I like, the community, the just the camaraderie, the community. It's really good fun. So that's why I push it so hard. And obviously with the new software as well, some of my edits are ridiculous. Like some people look at it and go, "That's
honestly,
too much."
Every time you do a new video, there's some new special effect that you put in, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and I'm a fan. Like, so that's what's going on over at Riddler Reptiles YouTube. Like, with plenty more to come as well. Like I say, last night I was filming the next build. I've got a couple of funny ideas for that one as well because obviously I've already done one of these builds. So some people might be thinking, well, why are you going to put another video up of the same thing that you built 3 months ago? I want to whack in some better ideas. You know what I mean? I'm
Well, and even if
improving
you
every
build the
time.
same thing 6 times, each time you build it, it's going to get, you'll be like, oh, actually, I've done this and it worked better than last time, or I'm changing this slightly. So it evolves each time you do it as well. So I think it's great.
100%.
So apart from the build video, is there anything else up and coming that you can let us know about, or is it that's the only thing in the direct timeline at the moment?
There's a few little different things I want to do. Like, for example, I want to sort of do a couple more sort of care guides, which would be quite cool, but only on stuff that I'm a bit more confident on. So in actual fact, to the point where I want to make sure that it's correct and I'm happy with it. So I filmed an entire 20-minute, half an hour, obviously before editing and cutting it down. I was sat in front of my camera for 20 minutes, half an hour doing a leopard gecko care guide. And I started watching it back and I deleted it because I'm not happy with that. You know what I mean? I need to make sure that if this is going to go out, I've got the majority of the B-roll that I'm going to put over it, things like that. But I need to make sure that I'm happy with it. I want to do another roughneck care guide because the one that I did initially was good. But again, my care and knowledge of them has increased tenfold since then. So I want to make sure that if people are going to a roughneck care guide video, they go into the most recent one. Because before I had, mercury vapor bulbs instead of halogens and UVB. It's not very reptile related, but I think some people would appreciate it. Yeah, things like that. I mean, just for example, I filmed a pretty quick. I installed a new misting system.
Serenity Dragons just said, I want to get into long form YouTube, but I can't make myself learn editing. I need to do it. Here's a little teaser. I edit everything on my phone using CapCut, and it's fantastic.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
It's really easy.
It's really, really easy to use. Sometimes it can look a little bit overwhelming, like because there's so many options. But because there's so many options, that's why my edits have just started getting a little bit ridiculous. Because I'm like, that's a sick feature. I'm going to use that there. So it can end up being quite fun. But yeah, man, I like keeping it varied because the thing is, you do have your positives sticking with a singular niche because you can do quite well in that area. But I quite like broadening my horizons and being a little bit here, a little bit there. Do you know what I mean? But,
yeah, definitely.
And I enjoy the whole side of it.
You did the same thing every day, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you get to meet like different people in the different niches in the same hobby as well.
Yeah.
Like for example, I'm now pretty good friends with Brad from Brad's Bioactive Builds. Like he's going to help me with Reptile Room 2.0 beyond belief. Like I've got some ideas from his videos and he's like, yeah, when you're ready, hit me up. And I'm like, legend. You know what I mean? And it's just nice because you got someone who's into the building side of things. You got people who into, the snake side of things. You got people with the monitors, the geckos. So it's really nice because you do get to meet a varied, amount of people.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things I found with the podcast. And one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast is because I'd been keeping royals for so long and I had lots of friends in the royal community, but we always spoke about royals. And I'm like, I like snakes, but there's so much other cool stuff. And I want to talk to people about other cool stuff. And since doing that, I've obviously made a fair few friends, yourself included. And my mind has been like, there's so much out there. And it's
yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah. Like Paul says there as well. That's why he started doing the live premieres and the podcast. So everyone, me and you are chatting. Everyone is in the comments chatting as well, and it works really well at building the community. So yeah, hats off to Paul for not coming up with that idea because YouTube came up with it, but letting us all steal it because it works really well.
I mean, I didn't even know. That's the thing. Like before I saw Paul's, I didn't know the YouTube premieres were a thing.
Yeah,
I joined the first one. I was like, this is sick. Do you know what I mean? For me, I just used to schedule a post, put it out, and hope people saw it. But the premieres are class because, like I say, people turn up, they chat. So yeah, it's. I do like that one. That's one of the best ones I've seen.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right, let's move on. I'm looking forward to seeing the YouTube stuff coming up. But we're going to move on to the title topic of today's episode. There's a lot of T's in that sentence. And that is, as you can see from the title, from racks to riches. Now, I'm not talking about money because let's face it, we're reptile keepers. None of us have any money. I'm talking about moving away from keeping snakes in racks and how that has enriched our reptile keeping careers, for want of a better word. And funny enough, Paul has just commented saying, imagine that you two started as rack keepers too. So, yeah, let's get into this. I want to preface this topic by saying I'm not against royal keepers. I've had a few messages recently from saying, oh, the podcast used to be inclusive and now you hate royals. I don't hate royal keepers, but everything covered in this section of the podcast is solely mine and Andrew's own experiences, feelings and thoughts, and you can keep your animals how you see fit as long as you're not neglecting them. I want to try and keep the focus on the positives of moving away from the racks as well and instead of poo-pooing on keepers that are using them. And I will do my best to include any comments in the live chat on this topic specifically. So if you're watching and you want to chip in, bring the chat and I will do my best to try and keep it all flowing as we go. Right. Now that's all out of the way. For those of you that are listening that don't know, both myself and Andrew used to keep royals or ball pythons. I now don't keep any snakes at all. And Andrew, like I said, you have a few royals. I don't think you intend on breeding them anymore. Is that correct?
No.
Cool. Right. We both used to keep them in racks. It was about the same sort of time that we both decided to move away from racks as well, I think. So I know personally, well, I feel in the last sort of like 12 to 18 months since making the decision to move away from Royals and move away from Racks, that I feel like I've grown massively as a reptile keeper,
Mhm.
in loads of ways. Would you say you feel the same sort of way?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like, again, I agree with you. I don't hate Royals. I've got a few, and I will be keeping a minimum 4 of them. You
Yeah.
know, I think they're still beautiful animals. I think they're incredible. Like the fact that we can own pythons, ones that won't kill us as well. You know what I mean? Where
We
you
can
got
keep ones that will kill us as well, to be fair.
exactly, yeah, but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like you say, you get so much more out of having an animal in an enclosure that it can utilize over a rack. Do you know what I mean? So that's the difference. Like it's combined two of my sort of passions, I guess, which is building. Like if I could do it all over again, because I'm an electrician by trade.
Yeah.
Um,
Not a fireman,
Not a
which
fireman,
yeah,
no. Which
for some reason I thought Riddler was a fireman for like a year before I found out it was a
I'm
Sparky.
not, I
I
still
don't
have
know
no
why.
idea why, but yeah. So I'm an electrician by trade, but if I could do it all over again, I'd go into being a chippy,
Yeah.
100%. As in carpenter. For anyone that thinks I just said I want to work in a fish and chip shop, um, I'd go into carpentry because I just love building stuff. It's really, really good fun, and I also love keeping reptiles.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can build an enclosure from start to finish, and then put an animal in there, knowing that it's of adequate size and things like that, and I can do exactly what I want with it. Where do I want to put the vents? Where do I want to put, how tall do I want it? How wide do I want it? Where do I want to make sure it fits? And it's just really rewarding. Excuse me. Like I say, at the end of last night, I managed to, in about half an hour, build an entire Viv. Oh, right, I haven't done the vents in it, I haven't varnished it, but I've built the box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and it's just combining those two passions, and like you say, it's filling it as well. Like, where am I going to put this hide? Me thinking you genuine was it. That's why I
No,
made
there's
that.
no judgment
That's
here.
that's why I made that disclosure. No, I don't want to work in a. Well, no, I'd get far too fat if I worked in a chip shop. I've lost my train of thought now.
Sorry.
That's all right. But yeah, just that alone, like putting everything in it. Where am I going to put the hides? How can I make sure that they can utilize UVB high up and low down?
Yeah.
It's things like that, and it makes you think, and it gets you. It's my happy place at the minute because, like, with this newborn, I've done all right so far. I'm not feeling, after the first one, I got postnatal depression,
Yeah.
messed me up. This time, so far, so good. But
That's good.
at
We're
the same
three
time,
days in, we're doing all
3
right.
days in and we're doing all right. But this time, so like I say, like last night, for example, even though I was feeling all right and I could very happily and easily gone to bed at like 8 o'clock at night, I thought, well, I'm not going to get another chance today. I'm not going to get another chance tomorrow. Let me just go and spend half hour, 45 minutes by myself, camera on, doing some building, knowing that a snake is going to get another better home out of this.
Yeah.
And I did. And even though maybe I'm not quite depression, obviously I don't want to get to that point. So if I can
Yeah.
just do these little things that, just keep me topped up with
Yeah.
the old happiness levels, then that's what I'm going to do. And at the minute, because I'm lacking money and time, the best thing I can do is build new enclosures and set stuff up. You know what I mean? So, when I say that, like the only reason I'm able to build this one is because it will all be revealed, but I've had an exciting little sponsor for this build.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm able to purchase everything for it, because someone else has helped me do it. But it's just that enough, yeah, just to help me
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
better about what I'm doing, and it's really nice. And I know, the snake that's going to go in there, for example, where can I put her ledges? How can I, personalize it and utilize it for her? And it's really nice because it's so much better than just, have I cleaned that water bowl?
Yeah.
Is there poo to pick?
There's a poo in the corner. Let's pick it up.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I have grown because, like I say, with every new build I do, I look at the positives and the negatives. Like, what did I do on that one that was really good? And what did I do in that one that wasn't as good that I can do better on the next one?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. No,
yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
So I've put together like a list of questions. They don't really go in any particular order because I have the topic in my head, but it's hard to sort of get out what I'm trying to say. So we'll just
Mhm.
sort of wing it, and we'll let it flow. And I might use them all or not. But what do you think's been the main sort of hurdle / like learning curve going from keeping royals in racks to not in racks? So
The
like
biggest
I'll
the
use
biggest
if you don't mind,
hurdle.
I'll
Yeah, yeah, go on.
yeah, yeah. So my biggest hurdle, obviously, I'm not keeping royals at all anymore. But even going from keeping royals in racks to keeping other reptiles, I knew absolutely nothing about lighting, like whatsoever. Like when I started keeping, I had snakes and stuff in vivs, and it was way back when. So it was red bulbs, T8s if they were lucky. Like that was it. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
moving from, and then I did like I don't know, 13, 14 years of royals where it was just snake in tub.
Mhm.
So going from that to then going, "Oh, I'm gonna get something that like the monitors," there is so much more involved, and
Yeah.
that I think that was my biggest learning curve, was understanding, like, the different wattages of bulbs, like, do I wanna use a halogen or a mercury vapor and T5, what percentage, like, what UVIs, Ferguson zones, all of that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
There was a huge learning curve that I had to learn very well. Didn't have to learn it very quickly, I took my time, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was quickly in the scheme of things.
Mm. For me, one of the biggest hurdles was actually trying to move on some of the snakes,
Right.
because with that hobby, the problem is I started with like again, I hate saying this because they're animals, but in the terms of selling like the royal hobby,
Yeah.
you had the lower end royals, which
I'm
saying
I'm
it out
I'm
loud,
waiting for that pyramid scheme comment to pop up
it's
in
yeah,
the yeah.
yeah. But it's true because and again, like I hate saying it because they are animals. So who's to say one's more lower end than the other,
Yeah.
apart from whoever's buying it? But at the same time, that's the way it works in the royal hobby. It's a case of right, that's a single gene animal, that's 30 quid.
Yeah.
That's a normal, that's either £10 or I'm feeding it off to one of my lizards.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like,
um,
I when I got normals, I used to give them away to the pet shop because I could do nothing
yeah,
with them myself.
yeah. So when I was trying to sell them, there were people in the hobby that obviously, if they weren't just starting out, they didn't want them
Yeah.
because they already had animals that were 3, 4 genes. So why would they want a banana royal?
Yeah.
No one wants a single gene banana. I mean, which sounds awful, and how it's quite hard finding a pet only home who's going to put it in. Luckily, I have done. So one has gone already to a new home, and they actually want another one as well. And I'm actually giving them a Viv. Nothing special. It's just a 3 foot Viv that I've got, and I've said to them, they're going to need upgrading at some point in the future, but
Yeah.
have a Viv to get you started. And that's nice. But yeah, one of the hardest things is I had all these ideas. I'm going to sell the snakes, I'm going to move them on, and then with the money, I'm going to build new enclosures, I'm going to do this and that. But that's the hardest thing to do, was actually sell the snakes.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
was it was tough. It was really tough. I've only just finished selling the snakes. And again, I wanted to make sure they were going to appropriate homes because I can't guarantee that they did, but for me, just the thought of them going from a rack to a rack was hard. But I
Yeah.
don't know whether, it's not, again, at the end of the day, it's not up to me. It can be before anyone says it. Oh, it's up to you who you sell it to. But sometimes your hands are tied,
Yeah, and like you say, like, things are moving, you have like a time scale as well, and it gets to a point where you like the animal's got to go, and it either
yeah.
goes to someone that like, don't get me wrong, it will have food, it will have water in a rack. It's
Mm,
not ideal,
mm,
but it is what it is, and you know that it's better that than it gets dumped
mm.
or it gets neglected and dies.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the hardest parts at the beginning, was doing that. But now that that's happened, I've got the room, I've got the space, the bit more, some more. I don't want to say more money, but the money that I made from selling the snakes has gone back into improving the lives of my snakes,
Yeah.
the ones that I'm keeping. So it swings and roundabouts, and it hasn't been easy. You know, there was one guy, for example, that he said he wanted 6 of my snakes. He'd give me whatever price it was for the lot. And then he just was ghosting me for a while. And then after a few months, oh, mate, I still want them. I'll be... And eventually I was just like, I put them up on Morph Market, pre-love, and I've not heard from him since. So, but...
Yeah, it happens. Unfortunately, selling animals is hard anyway, and especially in the royal market, because there's like 50,000 of them available all the time. That was one of the things I said to when I sold mine. I said to my wife, like, if I do 6 months and I'm like, you know what, I really miss the royals. It's not like I can't go out and get some, because they're everywhere.
I'll be honest, that's one thing that came to my mind when I was coming to that decision as well, because some of some of the ones that I bought were because I wanted specific pairings to get specific offspring.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me that, hang on a second, if I want that snake, I can assure you there will be one on Morph Market. If I want it that badly, as opposed to breeding snakes and hoping one of those pops out, and what do I do with the babies? I can just get one of those morphs.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And I remember one of them, it was a, what was it? Was it a Karma ball? Yeah, because it was Phantom to Lesser.
Yeah,
and it's basically Blue-Eyed Lucy with like a yellow stripe down its back. And I was like, yeah, sick. I want that. So I've got one of those. And then, like I say, further down the line, I was like, well, hang on a second. When I started thinking maybe of selling up, but I was like, oh, but that pairing, that. I went on Morph Market, I typed in Karma. There was about 7 of them popped up within a 10-mile radius.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, there goes that reason to keep them in racks. You know what I mean? So that helped as well, because they're very, 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 very common. Like you think of the...
I think they're quite addictive as well, though, aren't they?
It can be. It can be.
Yeah. And
it can be a slippery slope.
Yeah, I think because they are easy to breed as well. And don't get me wrong, hatching royals is well exciting. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't especially if you're breeding for colour morphs, because you don't know or sometimes you can guarantee the pairing, but if you don't know the pairing, when you like normally cut the eggs when it comes to royals, it's really exciting, and you can't. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're stuck with however many babies, and you're feeding them, and it becomes a nightmare.
Yeah, it's when you're trying to assist feed and then they keep spitting it out 8 times in a row.
Yeah.
That you almost just want to go, right, you're getting fed to Ragnar instead. I didn't, by the way, just full disclosure. She did eat some dead ones.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But I'm exaggerating when I say I fed them to Ragnar.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's yeah. So, like I said, we are a little bit different now in the sense that you are still keeping some royals. I haven't got any, but you've moved yours into vivariums. So, what behaviours have you personally noticed since moving your snakes over? Obviously, you're offering them overhead heat. They've got UVB and LED, all of which you can't really, you can't do in racking unless you've got. But I don't think I've seen any racks with UVB, LED, or overhead heat. So, yeah, they've all got that now. And they've got glass fronts, so you can see them, but they can see you. So do you find I don't know, where am I going? What behaviours have you seen since moving them into the enclosures?
This is quite a funny one, because the reason... So far I've got 4 of them are in Viv, so they're not all quite done yet. The one that I put in recently, who was in the first one that I built myself, start to finish, that I did the series.
Yeah.
The reason I moved him in is because I was like, he's always at the front of the tub. He's always trying to get out. He's always trying to spread out and use the space and blah, blah, blah. So I need to put him in first. Now, I don't mean this in a negative way, because a hidden reptile is a happy reptile, but I don't see the bastard anymore. Real talk. I saw him yesterday because he decided to climb on his wires. Yeah. But apart from that, I very, very rarely see him, which is fine, because that's the whole point. The whole point is if he feels safe being hidden, then fine. But he's not. Where before he was almost, I don't say glass surfing, but like tub surfing.
Yeah.
He doesn't do that anymore, which I can only count as a good thing, because he's happy in his hiding areas.
Yeah, he's not trying to move.
I'll come in the evenings, and there's times that he's poking his head out of the warm hide, or I'll come back the next night and he's poking his head out of the cool hide, or sometimes he's fully stretched out on the top. But I'm not very nocturnal, as we've just found out. So,
Yeah.
but during the day, it's just an empty enclosure with plants in it, which again is fine because
It's nice to look at.
it's nice to look at, and that's what I'd rather. Like, I'm almost using it as I'm cultivating plants in there. You know, I've got a spider plant in there that's putting out little runners, which for me, who used to kill every plant they put in a viv, that's sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's free plants for more enclosures.
It is, yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm saving money by not having to buy anymore. But I have noticed that they do come out, and when they do, they are less shy. So when they
Right.
choose to come out during the day, when they choose to bask, they're not as skittish. So in the tubs, obviously, you open the tub and they just immediately go, oh, Jesus Christ! You know what I mean? They go, oh, you put them in, and then they disappear for a while. But then when they are out and they're basking, if you open that glass, 9 times out of 10, they're chill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're all right. They've chosen to come out during the day and be on show.
Yeah, and you haven't surprised them as well because they can see
Yeah.
you coming through the glass.
Yeah. And almost be vulnerable, you know, because they're
Yeah.
technically in a vulnerable position. So, yeah, so I would say they do hide more. I see less of them,
Yeah.
but I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't want people going, oh, if that's the case, I'm going to keep in a rack then so I can see them more.
To be fair, generally reptiles are pretty reclusive.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as a whole. Obviously, you get there's a different per species, and species between species are completely different, and you can get two of exactly the same species and one will be out and one will be not. But
Yeah.
generally, as a whole, they
They
would
like
prefer
to have
hide.
hiding. Yeah.
Just a quick one that's come up on the chat. No, that's not the one I wanted. Hang on. A quick question from Paul: is cutting eggs just gaining profit and playing God, or do you think it's helping? Do you want to go first on me?
Yeah, I can do. There's very much two sides to this, to be fair. Because on the one hand, you've got to look at it as though if that baby didn't make it out of the egg, there must have been a reason for it to not make it out of the egg.
Yeah.
So is that why we're getting head wobbles? Is that why we're getting neurological issues? Because we're trying to get the pretty colors and make sure they all survive. But I don't know if this is just a justification from some people. Because of that, obviously there sometimes needs to be a justification, but you can have a perfectly healthy snake that has lost its egg tooth and it's fallen off, it can't get out, it drowns, it dies, and there was no need for that animal to die. The problem with that is how rare is that? And is that something we used to use as a justification to make sure for a fact that this animal lives? So obviously I used to cut eggs, but because obviously I saw that other comment, you know, stick your finger in the pull the snake out. I never did that. I didn't go Jay Brewer style. It's a case of cut the eggs and just give it an exit for when it needs to get out. Do you know what I mean? So it's ready. It doesn't need to cut it itself. But I must admit, I do agree, if the animal doesn't get out, the chances are very high that there's a reason it didn't get out.
Yeah, so Paul said there that weaker animals should survive and procreate. Obviously, they shouldn't, is what he's been. Sarcastic comment for those that can't see the emojis.
No, he accidentally he put it next. He said shouldn't.
Yeah, shouldn't. There you go. And yeah, I have to agree. Like, I cut eggs every clutch. Someone else said it was for views as well. Yeah, Sharon said playing God makes good videos. So I never filmed egg cut. I did it on live once. But that was because my mum asked me to be fair. But I always like to cut the eggs. It was because I wanted to know what was inside them, and I'm impatient. But twice out of probably, I don't know, 30 clutches in total, twice I had to intervene where snakes had their umbilical cords wrapped around them, and they would have died in the eggs. But at the same time, I completely get the point where Paul was saying, if it's not strong enough to get out of the egg, should you even let it? But yeah, I think that bit is a profit thing, because obviously I'm going, oh, there's a snake there, very pretty. I might want to keep it. I might want to sell it for X amount of money. But if it doesn't get out of the egg, then there we go.
Well, see, yeah, it's funny you say that, because that's why I had that miracle snake. Do you know what I mean? The umbilical was knotted up. The the yolk, or all of that, it wasn't being fed into the snake.
Yeah,
he came out super skinny. The egg sac was still pretty full, I took him out because I could see there was like the yolk was starting to go a little moldy as such. So I took him out, put him on wet paper overnight, and over the next couple of nights, you just saw after I sort of untangled it that the yolk was being absorbed into that snake. And he's absolutely fine. He's a stunner. He's a big. He's getting pretty big now. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a healthy snake that otherwise would have died. But obviously, there is that whole thing of should he have survived in the first place? I guess.
Yeah. Georgia just said, I wonder if there's a correlation between health issues later down the line and animals unable to leave the egg. It would be an interesting study to see. She's not a bull python breeder, so I'm not sure if it's feasible. So that is something that is probably well beyond me, but it would be interesting to know.
It would, yeah.
And to be fair, there's enough people that are breeding royals in the UK to probably get quite a large amount of information, like statistics, pretty quickly.
Yeah, problem is I don't think any of them would want to show the negatives of doing something like that, though. That's the problem.
That is a problem. So anyway, I was trying to keep this positive. So let's move away from the negative slightly. It's difficult because it's quite a touchy subject, but
it is,
I want to try and keep it all positive and encourage people to do stuff as opposed to just slating them. So one of the main things, I say slating, here we go again. One of the main things that people tell you to put a snake in a rack, the royal specifically, is because it doesn't eat. How are your snakes doing since you've moved them from racks to vivs with feeding?
They smash their meals every time.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, right? Because that was told to me when I first started keeping snakes as well. And here's the really, really annoying thing. It works.
It does work.
But what they don't say to you is your enclosure isn't cluttered enough. Instead of saying it's a big, because what they'll do is they'll say the enclosure's too big.
Yeah.
It's not too big. It's just not cluttered enough. You can get the same feeding response from that same snake in a 4-foot enclosure that's full of clutter than you can in a rack. But this is the thing that's not said, and it was said to me. I was like, my snake hasn't eaten, and blah blah blah. He's in a 4-foot enclosure, and he didn't say, "Is it full? Have you got this in there? Is it that?" He said, "Put it in a rack, and I promise you, it'll eat." And the problem is the week later that snake ate. Yeah. And I went, well, there you go. That proves it. And it's just such a shame because the 4 that I've got in vivs now smash their meals every single time.
Yeah.
All right. Every now and again, you'll get one that maybe doesn't fancy it that night and it'll eat it the night after.
Yeah.
On the rare occasion, you'll get maybe they're just going into shed and you've missed it and it won't eat it. But
sometimes they're just not hungry. Sometimes I don't fancy dinner.
Well, yeah.
It's
For
rare.
me, that's very rare. Yeah.
But sometimes.
Yeah. But for the most part, even if they don't strike it, I'll leave it in there overnight and it's gone the next morning.
Yeah.
So there goes that. So if you're wondering whether you should keep a snake in a rack because they don't eat in enclosures, I promise you that is false.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment if you've tried it. There's no judgment if that's what you've been told. That's what I was told, and that's what I did. But I promise you, just clutter the enclosure. Yeah, exactly. Clutter the enclosure. Make it almost that you can't see the snake, because that way the snake can't see you, and it will feel a lot more comfortable with eating. Because obviously they're very vulnerable when they're eating and they've got a jaw full of rat or something. They can't get away very quickly. You know what I mean? If something comes along, they're in trouble. So they need to feel safe and secure and hidden. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And like I said, like circling back, that's where your team educate, don't berate comes in, because there will be, that is probably the number one Googled question for royals is, why isn't my snake eating? And like you say, all the information online at the moment, not all of it, the majority of it that comes up is racks. So the more we have conversations like this and team educate and berate, educate, don't berate, not educate and berate. Educate, don't berate, and everybody else. Like, if you can push this new information, it's not even new information, but the correct information, I suppose. Eventually, it will filter through and it will be on top of Google. So
see, that's the thing. The problem is those that shout the loudest are the ones that are heard. And at the minute, the ones that shout the loudest are the ones that say, keep your snakes in racks because it's better for them, because they live in termite mounds in the wild and they're nocturnal, so they don't need overhead heat and UVB. That's the problem. And that's where, that's another one. It circles back to that question where you said, where's my YouTube going? Like I say, with care guides and things like that, I want to start pushing that narrative a bit more. And I don't want to say fight against it, because again, it sounds like there's like a rift in the
divide.
community. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like an us against them. But I don't want it to be me against other royal keepers. I'm technically a royal keeper. I'm a monitor keeper. I'm a milk snake keeper. What I want to do is really shift it towards, like you say, if it's typed into Google, why is my royal python not eating? I want my video to pop up for it to say, because your enclosure isn't cluttered enough, because it might be going into shed, because it might be this. I don't want the top video to be because it needs to be in a smaller space and your enclosure's too big.
Yeah,
And that's
no,
the
I completely
difference.
agree.
Hmm.
I think you're doing the right thing. Like you say, it is difficult as well because there is definitely a rift, and like
Mm.
even through doing the podcast, like I said, like when we started this topic,
Mm.
I've had messages from people saying, "Oh, you used to be royal inclusive, now you hate royals," and I don't at all. I like royals, I just
Yeah.
don't keep them anymore. I don't
Yeah.
like racks, and that's my personal opinion anymore. Now,
Mm-hmm.
even not anymore now, but I don't have anything against anybody that keeps in racks to a point because I've done it, you've done it, and we all have to learn somewhere. So if you're listening to this as a royal keeper and you're like, "Oh, he's a knob now because he doesn't keep them, so he doesn't get it," like I understand. I feel like my personal, I don't know, like
Ethos.
ethos and my knowledge have expanded to the point where like this is going to go nice into the next bit. Like I understand the benefits of like overhead heat now and like how halogens and like infrared A, B, and C and all that sort of stuff. I
Mm.
don't know the ins and outs completely, but I know that they are beneficial. I know they can't be provided in a rack.
Mm.
So I think, like you say, if we can educate as opposed to telling people they're just idiots,
Yeah.
it's going to work much better. And hopefully
Yeah.
that rift, there is definitely a rift between royal keepers and the rest of the
Mm.
reptile community in the UK. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the same abroad, but it's such a pain because you just want everyone to be mates, really. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to be slagging anybody off. So
Mm.
yeah. So like I said, um, overhead heat and all that sort of stuff. I feel like now I know a lot more about heating and lighting than I ever did keeping stuff in snakes. So like I understand like the benefits of halogens over ceramics or deep heat projectors,
Mm.
things like UVB percentages and the dangers of under or overdoing them because
Mm.
before I didn't know that UVB stacked. So like if you have two 12% tubes, technically you've got a 24% tube. I
Mm.
didn't know that beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things like UVI readings. So like although you've got a 12% tube, the Ferguson zone here is like at the top is completely different to 10 to 12 inches below,
Mm.
and how you need to create different like heights in the enclosure and different ledges and all that sort of stuff. That's
Mm.
something that I have all learned since moving away from Raws and experiencing like the vivarium setup, so to speak.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that's a few things that I think really stand out to me since moving away from racks. But what do you think? Is there anything in your husbandry practices that particularly have improved since making the change?
Probably similar to you. To be fair, it's got to be the overhead heat and UVB. I mean, moving away from royals, for example, because it can be in a lot of species, like those that people say are nocturnal, so don't need it. When I first got my leopard geckos,
Yeah.
because I used to have two, I've only got the one now. Again, I was told they're a nocturnal species. They don't need light. They don't need UVB. They need underbelly heat.
Yep.
So I had a 3-foot enclosure with a heat mat on a thermostat, and that was it. You know what I mean? Obviously, it had substrate. I'm not. I'm just including that in the setup, and that was it. And because you see people say they're nocturnal, so they don't need it. It couldn't be any further from the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know how often I find my leopard gecko out during the day, whether she's in her humid hide, whether she's basking directly under the heat lamp and the UVB? It's crazy, and like that's all it took was it was a case of because it was a case of, even if they don't use it, it's good to have choice, and that's really where I've started going with my keeping is choice.
Yeah, I think that's
Choice to
something
bask,
that
choice
I've
to
been trying
climb.
to.
Yeah, choice-based handling. I'm a huge advocate for choice-based handling. I rarely handle any of my animals. If I see that they're potentially in the mood to do so, I'll offer them my hand. If they walk away from me or slither away from me, fine. If they jump on, sweet. I get to interact with my animal a bit more.
Yeah.
But for me, that's the most important part that I found with keeping. It's giving them that choice. Because, like I say, we are the rulers of their world. It's up to us to decide how they live. Now, if you put an animal in a box with no light, it hasn't got the choice but to have no light. If you put an animal in a box that's got light and UV and places to hide and places to climb do you know what I mean? And plants and things to climb over and things to dig into. If they don't want to do it, fine. If they want to do it, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. They can do it if they want. And that for me is so, so important.
No, I think it's like you have to think of it like in almost like everyday life. So I know we're in England, but on that one day of the year where we get a heat wave and it's like 30, like over 30 degrees and it's hot, you don't want to be sat in the garden in direct sunlight all day. You come out in the sunshine for a bit and you enjoy it, and then you go and sit on the sofa and sweat and hide in the shade for a bit.
Yeah.
And you need that. You need the different options, and to be like, that's something I've been trying to really implement as well. Is giving not only different like heat options, but different ledges at different points in the enclosure.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more gradients, and hides at those points as well. So like say at 2 foot off the ground, it's like 30 degrees, but 3 foot off the ground is 35 degrees, and they want to be that little bit hotter, but also safe. Then there's like a hide there, and they're happy to do it. I'm not like like exactly that. So there's plenty of
because then on the same example that you've just used, can you imagine there being a heat wave outside and it's beautiful and sunny and glorious weather, and you're not allowed to go outside?
Yeah,
imagine looking outside and going,
isn't that what we do at work every day?
Yeah, there is that. That's true. Yeah,
and think how rubbish you feel.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, especially when I'm working in like hot plant rooms and like as in like mechanical plant and things like that, and it's just sweating, and I'm not allowed outside, and I'm still not allowed to wear shorts at work. But that's beside the point. But it's true, like you say. We want to go outside. We want to maybe top up our tan a little bit, and then go inside and get a glass of water and hide from it for. Imagine just looking outside and going, "I'd love to be out there, but I just can't. The room's locked."
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, very good point. And I think the more choice you give them, the more chance because people quite often, I'm gonna go off tangent and come back again in a second. It'll loop around. So people quite often ask me, why do you keep reptiles? Because like it's not like a cat or a dog. Admittedly, some of them are, and you can sit and stroke them and stuff. But for the most part, you can't like take a animal for a walk or like a reptile for a walk. And I always say they're a bit like tropical fish. Like I love watching them. I'm not fussed about handling them. Like if they want to come out, I handle them and I move them if I need to. But generally I stand and I watch them.
Yeah.
And the more choice they have in regards to heat, light, hides, the more chance you have of seeing natural behavior. And like, and if they're in a box, you see nothing. You see them at the front of the tub occasionally.
Yeah.
Like Paul's just said here, he watched a corn snake at work use its neck to dig soil, coil it up, and throw it. Like
that's sick.
Yeah, like
that's cool.
Who knew? Corns would do that? Like most people, corns are another animal that gets kept in a rack as well. It's not always royals. There are a lot of snakes that get kept
of course.
But you would never see that in a rack. Whereas you provide the correct different substrates, the hides, whatever it wants to dig, it has the option, and you can see it doing it. Tell me that's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there you go. More choices, more natural behavior.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really good. So to finish off the topic, as we have been going for a fair little while now, and I'm sure you're a tired man, as we've established. It's nearly 9 o'clock, so it is bedtime.
Way past my bedtime.
What do you think your biggest takeaway is since moving away from racks?
How much more enjoyment you can get out of the hobby in general. Because a lot of people, they chase that high of getting a new animal, and then after getting that new animal, it's breeding the two animals to get those new animals, and it's that constant chase for that new animal, the new colors, the new variations, the new this. But then it's quite fleeting.
Yeah.
Whereas when, to be fair, sorry, Paul said just me.
I saw
No, in
it.
all fairness, Prob Chinese, same. I nearly said that, to be fair. I did nearly say, what you know, when you said what's your favorite takeaway, I did nearly
Yeah.
say Chinese, but yeah, I didn't. But yeah, it's the fact that, you know, a project, I'm quite an impatient person. That's the problem. So if a project is going to take me a few days, sometimes weeks, I do get impatient, but I know that the enjoyment is going to last that little bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm building an enclosure and it takes me a couple of weeks, because obviously there's a few days that I can't do anything because I'm out or I'm working or I'm looking after the kids now. I know that I'm going to come back to it and I'm going to enjoy continuing on with that project. And that's what I think it's come down to for me, and the excitement of knowing what's next.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still improving as I go now, and the fact that I've got a new reptile room to be built, that's a massive project that I'm going to basically be doing
I'm
by
looking
myself.
forward to that.
And already I'm buzzing. Like, I'm building enclosures now, knowing that I've got to build basically a new reptile room.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoy the process because it's just constant. It's just constant. There's always something new to do. There's always something that you can buy to improve the care of your animals, and that's what I think is my biggest takeaway from this, is the fact that you can enjoy things in the long term without putting more animals at risk, putting
No,
them in a
I agree.
box. You know, so if you want to keep royals, you crack on. If you want to keep 10 royals, you crack on. If you want to put all 10 of them in vivs, amazing, because you can make a different setup for like, even if you don't want to do naturalistic, like, as long as the animals' needs are being met. If you want to do themed enclosures, but obviously they've still got opportunities to hide, climb, dig, things like that, you crack on.
Yeah.
Because the fun is still there, and it can also be like, it can be a longer source of enjoyment for both you and the animal. So yeah, for me, it's the fact that you can enjoy projects, and it's less fleeting for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the thing with Royals as well. Last comment on Royals, then we're moving on. But they are, like you said, if you're keeping them in racks, they are so addictive, and but you don't get that constant enjoyment. You get the enjoyment of you order it, it's exciting. The courier delivers it, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You open the bag and look at it, it's exciting. You put it in the tub, it's boring. Right, back onto Morph Market. What's next?
Yeah.
And I think,
And then you see it when you're poo picking, topping up water, or feeding, and that's
yeah,
it.
you go, oh, that looks nice, and then it goes away again. And don't get me wrong, the breeding bit is exciting, but that's because
Yeah.
the breeding's exciting because you're watching the natural behavior. Don't get me wrong, it's not natural putting one snake in a tub with another snake, but the breeding and that process is something that is natural, and that is exciting. So if you can see them exhibiting natural behavior in enclosures and in vivariums, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Right. We are going to finish up there, mate. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half. So the final question for today's podcast, it's not the final question. I need to reword this, but the wrap-up question for today's podcast is: if you could give your 10-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Are we talking reptile related or just life related?
However you want to take the question, it's completely up to you.
Okay. My 10-year-old self.
So little Andy is just there. Yeah, I don't like it. It's horrible.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've had people call me Andy, and it's just no big deal. But then you get like people that call you, obviously now, Riddler, and I go, oh no, that doesn't sound right. 10-year-old me, what advice would I give him?
Dan says buy Bitcoin. Yeah, you're probably not
Yeah.
wrong. I'd do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to be fair, I remember someone talking about it years ago. I thought that sounds ridiculous. I'm not getting into that. Don't I feel like a silly sausage? I was quite young, though, to be fair, so I don't hold it against myself too much. Do you know what? That's a really tough one, because for me, I feel like obviously everything that has happened has got me to the point where I am now. And this just goes to show that I am in a much better mindset than I was maybe a year ago. You know what I mean? I'm very much in a positive mindset at the minute.
Yeah.
So I'm almost thinking to myself, like, yeah, I have been through shit. I have been through depression. I have been in my overdraft by 300 quid. I have, do you know what I mean? But without that, I wouldn't be sat here with my wife upstairs. We're in my house with my little boy, who's now my best friend, and my newborn daughter, who's potentially asleep by now, maybe not. My room full of reptiles and all my friends and things like that. So it's a really, really tough one because, like I say, without things like that happening, would I be here? Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. So I'd probably just say, just keep having fun.
Yeah.
That's always been, I just like having fun and just, things like that.
Yeah. Sun comes out, bit of chasing status on the car.
Oh,
What the wife
mate.
says.
Yeah. When she's there going, you're too old for things like this. And I'm going, oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And all my Instagram people are agreeing with me. Then, I'd
There
say
we go.
just keep having fun.
Just keep having fun. The fun changes as you get older, but
It does.
just still have fun.
I would say don't grow up, but I think someone must have told me that when I was 10 anyway. So
Perfect. Right. I really enjoyed this episode, mate. This is the final question of the entire podcast. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and mainly nowadays YouTube at Riddler Reptiles. I mean, there's some variations. I think some are Riddler.reptiles, others are just Riddler Reptiles. Either way, type that in, or if you go to my Instagram account, I have got obviously all the links in my link tree and things like that. So I'm across most social media platforms as Riddler Reptiles. So feel free to come along, join me, join everyone, join the community, and join us for the ride as well.
Nice one. Perfect. Right. If anyone wants to know more about, I was going to say Andrew, then I don't really like that. If anyone wants to know more about today's guest, then head over to the show notes below. I've popped a link in there for your Instagram, and that will you can point you in every direction for everything else. And I also put a link to Team Educate, Don't Break.
I appreciate you, my friend.
I am going to say goodbye, but please hang around in the wings, and we will finish off in just a second. Thank you very much for coming on, Matt. I really enjoyed this one.
An absolute pleasure, and thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate you all.
Okay. Cool. Well, that was Riddler Reptiles. Andrew, Andy to some, not to me. I don't like that. It makes my skin crawl a little bit. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. I've really enjoyed the episode. Hopefully we touched on a few subjects. Wasn't too triggering for anybody. I think we did a good job of it, and I really enjoyed it. So if you want to keep up to date with what's going on with myself or the podcast, go on Instagram or Facebook, search ReptiChat, it'll pop up. As I mentioned at the top of the show, there is now a Patreon. It opens you up to a private Discord, get early access to extra content, pre-recorded episodes and all that. Starts as little as £1 a month. There's even a 7-day free trial. So that's that. I've been your host, Ben McIntyre. This has been a ReptiChat podcast. I will see you same time next Saturday for a ReptiChat vlog. Until then, laters.